quick bonus edition of Locked On Auburn. Zach Blackerby, Lance Daw does some stuff over at the barn. We just got done with our practice viewing window, practice number 2 of fall camp. I spent more time watching the defense. You spent more time watching the offense. I want to start with my first takeaway chronologically, Lance. Like when you walk in, Byram's always the closest to the door. Quarterbacks are closest to the door, and you always see everybody kind of forming in a line to dap up Byram Brown. You are now starting to see that happen with Cody Sigler. And I think the aura around Cody Sigler is impossible to ignore at this point.
It's absolutely impossible to ignore. And he's a guy that I've been extremely high on since we picked him up. And now that he's starting to get some more attention as fall camp has gotten underway just because of his size and his potential, I'm fired up about the interior of our defensive line, man.
Yeah, Dallas Walker looks good as well. Another thing that I just kind of noticed spending more time watching the defense, Buddy Mathis, number 10 on defense, is a guy that I kind of thought initially in spring, I'm like, is that a linebacker? Then I'd have to check the roster and be like, oh, it's a defensive line. Oh, it's Buddy Mathis.
Yeah.
He looks like he's filled out a little bit more. And I think that's important because I do think they added him for quality depth. I do expect to see him on the field at some point. I think he's battling for kind of the tail end of that rotation on the interior.
And that's something that, you talk about, just the physical presence of some of these guys. That when we get to the offense, we'll talk about it a little bit more, is that physically I'm impressed with so many different players here. And I was thinking, heading into fall camp, with all the guys that exited, all the talented players, all these big receivers that Auburn had last season, it's like, would we be able to sort of replace that physical intimidation, that production, that size? And I think Auburn still has that on both sides of the ball.
I think so too. Other notes just as far as how guys looked physically, 99 looked leaner. That's St. Ferrier. That could be the lack of pads or whatever, but to me, I thought he looked leaner. And then 98 dressed out. That is Corey Wells. He stayed inside to do rehab stuff, but the fact that he is a freshman is unbelievable. So there we go. All right, the first team defense, and take this for what it's worth, which is just what we saw, because Cody Sigler was with the threes in this drill. So take that for what it's worth. But we had, I'm going to have to, 11, which is who? I'm blanking. I'm still learning numbers here. 11 is Darian Smith, Dallas Walker, Buddy Mathis, and then I have 31 written down, but I think it was actually Jared Smith. So that was your front. Your defensive backs were the GOAT Gavin Jenkins.
There he is. As
well as Champ Anthony, Andre Jordan Jr., Eric Winters, and Sylvester Smith. And then you had Melendez and Atkins there. And then your second group was Womack, Ferrier, 96 is Autry, and then 90 is Nate Johnson. And then in the defensive back end, you had Pleasant. 24 is that Woodby?
I want to say so, yes.
No, 24 is Shadarius Tootle.
That's
12 is Woodby.
There you go.
And then 23 defensively, his name is Fred Gaskin.
Of course.
And then Bryce Diaz and Riddick were the backup linebackers there. So anything kind of alarming to you? Once again, take it for what it's worth, because then the threes came in and Sigler was with that group.
That's the only thing I would take away. Just that's major, is that Sigler was way down there, because again, I have just been so high on him, just in terms of statistical production and then physically what he brings to the middle of this group.
Yep. Champ Anthony did indie stuff with corners. And when that happened, Champ and Gavin went together.
Okay.
The GOAT. And then Andre Jordan Jr. and Rayshawn Pleasant went together. Take that for what it's worth. The order for linebackers, Elijah Melendez went first in every drill that I specifically watched today. Then it was Xavier Atkins. Then it was Bryce Diaz. No, it wasn't. 16 is Riddick, right?
Yes.
So it was Riddick after that. Then the edges. One thing about the edge room before we move to the offense, Lance, when we went through every practice in the spring, it kind of felt like, okay, when you watch the edges or the ends, it was Deshaun Womack's room, and then everybody else was just kind of there. We're like, oh, cool, and you heard all about the leadership. Now when you watch them, Jared Smith goes first every time. It is Jared Smith's room now. And I think just the kind of feel of the shift of that is the best thing for Auburn.
I think so. For Auburn's defense to take the step forward that it needs to with all of these new players and all of these new faces, they need guys like Smith who have stayed to actually step up and produce, given their talent, given their size. I think Smith is crucial for what Auburn needs to do this season.
All right, we got some offensive notes as well as another potential guy sliding under the radar. Lance made a comment to me that I think is very, very important. All that coming up right here on this quick bonus edition of Locked on Auburn. Today's show brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. FanDuel is America's #1 sports book. They've got a thing going on for the remainder of the baseball season. Daily dingers. You get to pick, hey, I think this guy's going to hit a home run. If they do hit a home run, you get some profit boost credited towards your next bet, which is super fun. And also there's some Auburn lines out there now. Auburn, a 7.5-point favorite over Baylor. Auburn win total at 6.5. So if you're liking what we're hearing, you're like, oh yeah, Auburn's going to win more than 6.5 games, 7-5 or better. Head over to FanDuel and get in on the action. FanDuel.com. Check out FanDuel.com today. When you looked at the offense, what was your first big takeaway?
Okay. I don't mean to be dramatic. I was watching the wide receivers work through drills before they got to the quarterbacks, and everybody was throwing on air. I think Christian Neptune might be the best receiver on this team.
So I spent some time talking about him yesterday as well. Very twitchy.
Yes.
Can go in and out of cuts extremely smooth, extremely quick. I think he's incredibly underrated.
Yeah, well, looking at this room again, talk about the physical nature of what Auburn had last season. You're not seeing that across the board, but they've got some guys that definitely stand out. And Christian, not necessarily one of those, but again, you talk about the polish, you talk about the burst, you talk about just the fluidity relative to maybe some of the other receivers in this room. It definitely does stand out where it's the moment he hit drills, the moment it was throws on air, it was, whoa, that guy clearly has something that maybe some of these other guys buried in the depth chart don't. I was very impressed with Neptune.
Doesn't take a rep off. That seems to be very big with this coaching staff, rightfully so. And also, I think the move of Chaz from slot to outside.
Yes.
Okay, Deshaun Spencer still starting at slot. Is that correct?
Yes.
We saw him start. Yeah, so then I think there's a really solid chance that Christian Neptune is the #2 slot if that shift stays. I mean, it's early in fall camp, a lot can change, but if that continues to happen, the path to playing time is clearer now than ever for Christian Neptune.
And I also want to point out here, just like Nimrod and Spencer working together as well, inside out, and I think that, like, I completely agree with you. The path to playing time for Neptune is definitely going to be there. I was also impressed with Bryce Kane. I thought that he looked really good today. And something about Singleton that I thought was really interesting is he seemed to work harder whenever he was getting reps with Byram. Whenever the ball was being thrown by Byram, to me, maybe I'm reading too much into it, but every time he ran a rep with Brown, he looked to have a little bit more of a boost coming out of his break. He looked to cut back harder to the ball. Everything looked more aggressive and sharp out of him, and I think I would take that as a positive for sure.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, they clearly have the chemistry and the rapport, like they know where the ball's going to be and all that. Golish may say it shouldn't matter, but whatever. It's not our call to make.
Yeah.
The tight end room. I just saw this note because Kyle posted on the barn, but it does seem like it's Jake Johnson and Arliss Boardingham seem to be the #2 guy again over John Eccles.
Yes, yeah, I think that Johnson is going to be the guy first in this room. And
I think the big question was who is tight end 2,
and it's definitely going to be it's going to be
Arliss the general.
Arliss the general. Excuse me.
No, you're fine. You're fine. Anything else? Any other things of note? Same offensive line, right?
Same offensive line. You're looking across the board at the same deal there. I was watching Ramil. I thought he looked fine during workout there. I will say this about the running back room because I had not gotten a chance to actually sit down and take a good hard look at Omar Mapson. That kid's legit. That kid is a physical freak of nature. That's your RB2. I would not even question it at this point.
I think the way they've talked about it and the way they've adjusted like the rotation so far, like we kind of went in with a couple of questions, and one of those questions in fall camp is who is RB2. I think that's answered now.
It's 100% answered. Physically, compared to the other backs in this room, it sticks out. I'll also say for Cobb.
Did you notice who went third?
It was Washington, I believe. It was Washington that was going third, and
then Davenport, I guess.
And then Davenport, yeah, and then obviously Meadows backing him up as well. But I thought that Cobb also. I'm sure this has already been noted, but Cobb has also put on weight as well. So the fact that you've got two backs at 1-2 where one of them, maybe a little bit lighter in the past, is going to be able to bring a little bit more of that physicality, and then obviously Mabson with just how freaking huge he is. I'm starting to believe more and more in this Auburn ground game and what they're going to be able to accomplish. Those kids it's impressive.
Yeah, they look the part.
Yeah.
They look the part. So, all right, those are our notes. Those are our thoughts, our quick takeaways as we just got out like 2 minutes ago from that first viewing window. We don't get anything tomorrow. We will get a viewing window on Saturday, so more to come. But, of course, I'll drop another show this evening as well right here on this channel. So y'all stay tuned, and we'll see you then. Lance, how can people check out everything?
They can go to the barn. Absolutely.
The barn. Please like the video. Please subscribe. We'll see you next time. This has been Locked on Auburn.